that I've ever heard. Each action is dismissed. Not only did Panorama never correct their 1987 story, they justified their dissemination of fraudulent allegations by falsely claiming that the church had never given them access. Church executives reiterate their offer to give Sweeney and the BBC team free access through any one of the 40 church buildings in Clearwater and to meet any of the thousands of Scientologists from all over the world at what is known as the Mecca of Scientology. But despite having spent thousands of pounds flying a 3-man crew to Florida, the Panorama team never sets foot inside a church building and doesn't interview a single Scientologist. With this in mind, church executives go to see Sweeney at his hotel. They wait for him in the lobby until he finally shows up at midnight.
We're offering you open access to the church to see it, to come in and film it. Okay. And you don't show up to do it. You fly all the way from England and don't do that. Right, okay. How is that?
But even in the face of this, instead, Sweeney positions his cameras on the roof of a nearby parking garage to interview one Sean Lonsdale. A convicted drug user and sex offender, he has never been a Scientologist, nor has he been inside a Scientology church. To locals, he is infamous for standing on a nearby street corner harassing church members, for reasons no one can explain.
Some sexual indecency offence. You freely admit to that? Yes, absolutely. Does that, in your view, disqualify...
And have in major newspapers as well.
Right. Does that disqualify you from observing, analysing, testing the claims of the Church of Scientology?
I don't think so.
If we're swapping criminal convictions, I've got one for criminal life.
We've all got something.
Is this a reporter in search of the truth?
No, it's very important that you have the truth. And it's actually in the BBC broadcast guidelines, the codes of conduct, Ofcom, in terms of first-hand reports, in terms of balanced reporting.
Yes.
It's covered in your own guidelines.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know that. Yes.
And it was actually something that we discussed.
I read them every night before I go to bed.
These broadcast guidelines are published by both the BBC and the Office of Communications, Ofcom, and form the ethical foundation of the BBC's government charter. But along with his violations of the code, Mr. Sweeney begins acting even more oddly, accusing church executives of driving hired cars.
That's why the creepy car comes, and what you've done...
Why
it's a creepy car! Creepy man, creepy car!
With Los Angeles as his next scheduled visit, the church invites him to stop off at the Narconon Arrowhead Drug Rehab Center in Oklahoma. But Sweeney refuses an in-depth tour of the world's largest independent drug-free rehab center that has an unparalleled success rate. Though claiming a lack of time and money as the reason not to visit Narconon, he flies himself and his crew right over the facility, 3,000 miles cross-country to San Francisco. There, he interviews one of the few people in the country he knows will be critical of the Narconon program, Dr. Stephen Heilig. As Director of Public Health and Education of a lobbying group with financial ties to major pharmaceutical companies, it is no surprise that in the face of all published evidence, Heilig would oppose Narconon's drug-free approach by claiming it doesn't work.
People that don't feel that the Narconon program has merit really have not taken the time to look at the literature. There's no question that Narconon is based in very good science, and we have a lot of documentation to prove that. Most of the physicians that I've talked to do see the efficacy of this program. And certainly, all you need to do is look at some of our work, some of the patients that we've treated here to get an idea of the degree of efficacy. We have wonderful results.
The next day, John Sweeney, Sarah Mole, and camera crew unexpectedly appear at one of the churches in downtown San Francisco, demanding to bring their cameras inside.
And I said, "Did you have an appointment? Have you made some arrangements?" He said, "Well, no, I just thought we'd come in here and just take some film. And I said, well, that's very disruptive. I'm sorry. It's normally in the United States, the media calls us first. We make some arrangements and things like that. And I said, well, why don't you call Tommy Davis up and make some arrangements with him, and then we can get back together again. At which point he left, and I expected him to just call Tommy Davis on the phone and make some arrangements. Instead, he had his cameraman film him coming into the building, turning around, walking out of the building. He did this 2 or 3 times. And it became pretty obvious to me that what he was doing was filming himself being rejected from doing an interview and make sure he got a good take. It seemed like a tabloid kind of operation instead of a legitimate news organization.
And I'd be wrong to say that there aren't journalists, TV program makers who don't manipulate programs in that way to present, as you say, a script to almost make a fiction, and that is one of the unethical parts of journalism.
We should not present invented material as facts or knowingly do anything to mislead our audiences. Arriving in Los Angeles, the Panorama team is welcomed to one of the church's facilities, where interviews are arranged with Scientologists and others who have worked with the church for many years. To this point, having only filmed interviews with detractors, this is Sweeney's opportunity to find out what Scientology really is from those who know best, Scientologists.
Are there any criticisms that you would make of Scientology?
That there aren't enough Scientologists.
That's not the answer I was looking for. No, but they say that it's not a force for good. They say the opposite. They say, it's a force for bad. But it's a rip-off. It tells people rubbish and it warps their mind. Others say that it's just a PR stunt. It's mumbo-jumbo. It's based on a falsehood. It's a dungeon of the mind. It's a sinister, brainwashing cult.
Would you ever sit with a Jew and tell them that their religion was a cult?
No.
Avoid unjust or unfair treatment of individuals or organizations.
There are some people, as I'm sure you know, who say, some people